you very much, folks. Well, I'm so glad to be back to play another concert for you. And the theme for tonight's concert is the Honky-Tonk piano revival of the 1950s. Really, the correct term for the music is ragtime, but they came up with a new term for it when the music was revived in the 50s. There have been two major revivals of ragtime music on the whole. One that started in about 1950, which we'll talk about, and then of course in the early 70s when the movie The Sting came out. What I'm going to talk about now is the honky-tonk piano phenomenon, and that kind of started in about the year 1950. The book They All Played Ragtime was released, and then also there was a very famous album produced on Capitol Records in Hollywood called Honky-Tonk Piano. And it had Ray Turner and Joe Fingers Carr and Marvin Ash on the album. Joe Fingers Carr, of course, became very famous, and his real name was Lou Bush. He was one of the executives at Capitol Records. Very talented pianist who created brilliant arrangements of these old songs. And let's do one of the authentic rags that was on that album in 1950 called Honky-Tonk Piano. But it's a very old rag. It came out of San Francisco, I think in 1910. It's called the Entertainer's Rag. This would be fun to do, I thought, because I haven't played it in a while. And there's a unique passage in this rag where the composer combined the melodies of two songs at the same time. Yankee Doodle in one hand and Dixie in the other. See if you can recognize that. The Entertainer's Rag. And there's the Entertainer's Rag. Thank you very much, everybody. Yeah, this is a great piece. It's written by a man named Jay Roberts in San Francisco. But it was included on that important album, Honky-Tonk Piano. We can talk more about that term as the night goes on. The way I am using it in the sense for this concert is the ragtime revival of the 1950s. And I've already done a concert that's sort of devoted to that topic, but this one's slightly different. I'm going to do some of the commercial, I don't hesitate to use the word corny, the music of some of the recording artists, people more like Knuckles O'Toole, and Joanne Castle, and so forth and so on. But anyhow, the next rag I thought I'd play before I do anything else tonight, this is an important one because it was revived in the early 1950s by a pianist named Winifred Atwell. Originally written in 1908 by George Botsford, this became an enormous hit for her, the biggest hit she ever had. And she lived in England at the time she made the record, but it must have sold millions of copies all over the world. She does not seem to have been particularly well known in the United States, but I think she's probably one of the most famous ragtime players there ever was. Winifred Atwell. This is my own version of the tune, Black and White Rag. And that's the Black and White Rag. Thank you so much, folks. I just realized I didn't announce the first couple of songs I played at the beginning of the concert. That was a medley of some of the pop tunes of the 1950s that were big hits for the recording artists that made those honky-tonk piano LPs. All vinyl by that time. Even the 78s, I think, were vinyl. The first 12-inch vinyl record came out in 1948 on Columbia Records. But that's a little bit about that. That was Music, Mr. Sandman. And also I did Mac the Knife, which was not written in the 50s, but it was another big hit at that time. It was sung and revived by Louis Armstrong, and Bobby Darin, I think, was the other one. Well, and I see some comments here on YouTube about Crazy Otto. Well, that was the big hit record for my friend Johnny Maddox. So I became very close personal friends with one of the people who was part of this movement, reviving this music, and we'll talk about Johnny in a bit. He was the very first artist on Dot Records, which also began in the year 1950. But you know, I thought I'd talk about another one who's still living, and she was also on Dot Records, but you all know her from the Lawrence Welk Show, Joanne Castle. And just recently I found out where she is. I was playing at the Diamond Bell here in Durango, and some nice folks from Branson, Missouri happened to come sit by the piano, and they said that Joanne Castle used to be their next door neighbor in Branson, but unfortunately she's in a nursing home now. I really would love to meet her. That's too bad, but I thought I'd play this song in honor of her. You can see that her picture was on this sheet music. They were still printing old sheet music, even in the 1960s, to some of these old songs, and this is obviously was one of her bigger hits. She was on 2 music covers. The other one was Pistol Packin' Papa. I finally got both of them. And so this tune is a big hit, music by Harry Von Tilzer, words by Will Dillon. It's a tune called I Want a Girl Just Like the Girl That Married Dear Old Dad. I want a girl just like the girl that married dear old dad. Thank you very much. I even included a couple of the chords in this sheet music. It's kind of updated with some more modern chords there at the end of the songs. That's obviously not quite the original printing of the arrangement of the sheet music. Oh, Moon Mullican, I love him, but I'm afraid I don't know any of his tunes by heart. I'd have to dig out the sheet music. I do accept virtual tips for these concerts, by the way. If you're just joining us, there's PayPal and Venmo information in both postings on YouTube and Facebook. I appreciate that. It's been very helpful to my career. That's why I keep doing these concerts. At least that's part of the reason. And I'm grateful and happy to take requests as well tonight. I hope I can get in quite a few of them. Okay, I'm checking both streams. It appears to be working. And don't forget to hit the like button. It helps with the social media algorithms. Share the postings on YouTube and Facebook as well, if you can. Before the vinyl LPs started coming out in the 50s, actually, there was a big hit record, again on Capitol Records, which I believe was made in 1948. of a famous old rag, and it was recorded by Pee Wee Hunt and his Dixieland Jazz Band, and it became an enormous hit. Sold over 1 million copies. So of course I'm talking about the 12th Street Rag. So I think that's an important thing to play in this program on the ragtime, partly on the ragtime music revival. So let's do 12th Street Rag, complete with the original introduction, which I think makes it a lot better. Thank you very much. Yeah, I know a lot of people still love that. It's amazing what you can do with essentially only a 3-note melody. And go ahead and do send in some requests tonight, folks. I'm planning on doing quite a few if I can honor those. And I've got a few things planned I want to do as we go through the night. One of the next ones I thought I might play is a song that was written in 1949, I believe, as a nostalgic song looking back at the ragtime years. And the funny thing is, this tune is now older than it was when it was written as a nostalgic piece. In other words, the original ragtime period was closer then than this nostalgic tune is today from the 1950s. I'm talking about the old piano roll blues, and I do kind of a funny version of it. I loved the way that Johnny Maddox played it. He put in a tune from the early 20s in the middle of it, which was written by Creamer and Layton, called Strut Miss Lizzie. So I'll do both of these for you now. The old piano roll blues, and with it, Strut Miss Lizzie. that's the old piano roll blues. Thank you very much. Well, let's see. I'm looking at some requests here. I could do My Gal Sal. I do know that by heart. Honky-Tonk Train is Boogie Woogie. I don't know that it has anything to do with the theme for tonight's concert, really, but maybe I'll play it for you in a bit. Let me check the other site. Got a request here for Glad Rag Doll, I see. Haven't played that in a while, and you know what? I'd like to do a ballad. So let me play that for you. This is one of the tunes that Johnny Maddox revived on Dot Records in the 50s. A lot of other famous artists have done this over the years, and this was probably not one of his gold records. Towards the end of the concert, I thought I'd play a medley of some of the big hits that Johnny had that were probably million sellers. I don't know that I have played that on any of my live stream concerts. Maybe one time, but I thought it'd be a fun way to close out the concert later tonight. For now, we'll do Glad Rag Doll and do it just the way that he used to play it, as a medley with another tune called Moonglow, a famous ballad of the mid-30s. And there's Glad Rag Doll. Thank you very much. Well, let's do something more upbeat. What would you like to hear, folks? Well, thanks for the kind words. Oh, got a request here for Frankie and Johnny. I could certainly play that. I think I should discuss again what I'm doing tonight. As the term honky-tonk, has many meanings. In fact, Bill Edwards did a seminar about it at the Scott Joplin Festival this summer. I think originally it meant essentially a low-down bar or a dive. And whenever I talked to Johnny about it, he would answer it very simply. First of all, he didn't like the term. He said he always thought it struck him like a put-down, low-down style of music or low-down place. And he said there is no such thing. It's ragtime, which originally, yes, that was the term for the music, not honky-tonk. That was the name of a place. And so then in the 1950s, all these records became so popular as a nostalgic thing, and what they would do is they would detune the pianos so it sounded like a piano in an old saloon, and so they called the music honky-tonk in the 1950s. It's not the original term for the music. Can also be, it's also used in the country music field. I think that's kind of what one of the fellows here is talking about on YouTube, and I don't really do too much of that kind of music, but so what I'm essentially talking about tonight is the 1950s ragtime revival, and here's one of the tunes that has been popular for years and years. Just got a request for this, and it's called Frankie and Johnny. It was written about a real murder that happened in St. Louis in 1899. The original names were Frankie and Alvin, I think. It was either Alvin or Albert Britt, and this is the Johnny Maddox version, complete with St. James Infirmary Blues in the middle of it. Johnny. Thank you. She always gets him in the end. That always seems to happen. Like I say, that's based on a true story. The song was first published in 1912 by the Layton brothers, who were a vaudeville team. But the melody had been around for a few years before that and actually shows up in a few different songs. And Mae West sang one of the best versions of that song. Now, let's see. Let's do a couple of the sort of famous sing-along tunes that were very popular during the honky-tonk piano craze of the 50s. But they're actually roaring 20s numbers is what they are. We're going to do 5'2", Eyes of Blue, and with it, Yes Sir, That's My Baby. And after I play the tune, I'll tell you a funny parody on 5'2". Here it is. 5'2", eyes of blue. 5'2", and that ain't all. She plays college basketball. Has anybody seen my gal? She's a deer. She guzzles beer, and she can eat half a steer. Has anybody seen my gal? If you run into a 6'8", all covered with hair, you may think it's her. You're wrong. It's a great big grizzly bear. Can she neck? What the heck? She plays in for Georgia Tech. Has anybody seen my gal? That's a parody on the song that Johnny taught me. There was nothing like hearing him play that on one of those fun pianos that he played all the time with lacquer on the hammers. I enjoy the sort of rinky-tink sound that you get from lacquering the hammers on a piano in a saloon. I think that's fun. That said, I do not care for detuning them at all. That kind of drives me nuts sometimes. Maybe I'm more sensitive to it than most people, but anyhow, send in some more requests for me here, folks. Yeah, towards the end of the concert, I might thought I would do something in honor of 9/11. So that's coming up towards the end of the concert as well. I see Ragtime Cowboy Joe. I can certainly play that. Oh yeah, got a request here from Nada on Facebook for Down Yonder. You know, I was just thinking about playing that. Down Yonder was written by L. Wolfe Gilbert, who is a legendary Tin Pan Alley songwriter who had written Waiting for the Robert E. Lee way back in 1912, I believe it was, and almost 10 years later, about 1921, he wrote Down Yonder. Now, his co-writer of the Robert E. Lee song had already passed away, Lewis F. Muir, but L. Wolfe Gilbert took even some of the melody and some of the names of the characters in the other song and turned it into Down Yonder, which was originally a hit for Al Jolson, and then the song was revived in 1951 by a pianist from Nashville named Del Wood, and it was an enormous hit for her. I think it was on the Tennessee record label, and around the same time, Johnny Maddox told me that he was scheduled to record Down Yonder and ended up doing something else instead. Shame he didn't end up doing that one. But Del Wood performed for many years on the Grand Ole Opry, and you know, was a very decent piano player who helped revive some of the ragtime tunes. And I don't know a whole lot about her. Johnny said he never met her, but talked to her on the phone one time. That's about my only connection there. So, but let's do Down Yonder in honor of Del Wood. Down Yonder. Thank you, folks. Boy, Carl, I see why she went by Del Wood. He says her full name was Polly Adelaide Hendricks Hazelwoods. Woo-hoo! Oh boy, that's a tough one. She's probably the only true ragtime piano player that ever played on the Grand Ole Opry. I don't know if there's too many more. Moon Mullican would not count. He would be truly country piano, western swing almost. And Johnny never did. I never have. I'd sure love to play there one of these days. You got it, my friend. Let's see, what's next on the list tonight? I've got a few things planned. Oh, Ace in the Hole. Yeah, I could do that, of course. Let me see. Let's do Ace in the Hole would be fun. This is a song that was not a hit, I don't think, by any means during the original ragtime period, but it was revived by a lot of the Dixieland jazz bands and some of the honky-tonk piano players in the 50s. And I finally got an original copy of it out of Johnny's collection. And it's just one of those famous songs that they used to sing in all the saloons. I love it. I don't play it quite the way it's written in the original music. I play it the way Johnny did it. The Ace in the Hole. Ace in the Hole. Thank you, folks. That was for Frank there on YouTube. And I want to do a couple of rags for you that were written during the 50s, during that period when this music was all being revived. There were a couple of other big stars at the time who played this kind of music. One of them, who's still living, his name is Dick Hyman, and he made records under the pseudonym of Knuckles O'Toole. And Dick is one of the finest jazz pianists that's ever lived of any kind. But he made these records under that fake name, and some of them were actually Billy Rowland, who was Perry Como's accompanist. He also made records under that name. One of Dick's other pseudonyms was Willie the Rock Knox. As you can tell, they took it very seriously. And I'm going to play a rag for you that Dick actually composed and recorded under the name Knuckles O'Toole. And the first one to tell me about this tune was my friend Rod Miller, who used to play the piano at Disneyland. He sent me the sheet music for this. I've never been able to find it anywhere else. From 1958, this is called Ragtime Razzmatazz, And it says on the music, by Jay Gaines. There is no such person. It's actually Dick Hyman. Thank you very much. Ragtime Razzmatazz. Frank is saying, Dick Hyman played the cutting contest in The Sting. No, it was the movie Scott Joplin that Universal released in the 70s. He did the music for that, which is really terrific. And yeah, I sure would love to see Dick again while he's still around. I only got to meet him one time in New York. We corresponded by email a few times. I actually had him autograph one of the Knuckles O'Toole records, which is kind of neat. One of the other people who was a small part of that movement in the 50s, not a big part of it, was Max Morath. All the early records that he released were sort of done on the rinky-dink pianos. He played at the Imperial Hotel in the Gold Bar Room in Cripple Creek, Colorado. That's where Max got his start. By the early 60s, Max started insisting on using grand pianos for his work, and I don't blame him. But let me go ahead and play, in honor of Max, one of his early rags, which I love. And it was kind of done in that 50s honky-tonk style. It's called the Gold Bar Rag. Greg. Thank you very much. Well, usually at this point in the concert, I make another announcement. I do accept virtual tips for these performances, and you can send in a tip on PayPal or Venmo. It's pretty easy to do. If you don't trust PayPal, I also have a P.O. box on my website for checks. I don't blame you. Jonah, I'm afraid I don't know Deed I Do by heart. I have played it, but I would have to dig out the sheet music. Yes, I love Max's Rags too. I do intend to learn polyragmic eventually. Oh, and there was one other thing I was going to say. I just learned recently that PayPal has changed some of their rules, I think. So now there is always a small percentage taken out as a fee if you have a business account, which I do. So I might look into adjusting that. I think all I might have to do to avoid it is open an account with a different email. So I might be doing something like that next week. I'll let you know. Now, let's do the big honky-tonk piano hit that made Johnny Maddox famous. In January 1955, he got a call from Randy Wood, who ran Dot Records, and said, we need you to make a cover. It was an early use of the term cover song. Originally it was cover record. So what they do is they make a copy of an arrangement on another hit record, and this was done by a German pianist named Fritz Schultz Reichel. And it's a medley of songs. It's multiple songs. Starts out with Lou Bush's Ivory Rag. It was a big hit for him under the pseudonym of Joe Finger's Car. And then there's a couple of German songs in the middle of it. German drinking songs, or maybe even sailors' tunes. And then it ends with Irving Berlin's Play a Simple Melody. And the label on the record was called Der Schräge Otto. It's not the record label, it's the title of the record, Der Schräge Otto. So Bill Randall at WERE Cleveland radio station in Cleveland, Ohio, came up with the title Crazy Otto in English. So that's the record that Johnny made. And actually it sold more than 1 million copies. It sold 2 million copies. And he played the song on the Milton Berle Show in May of 1955. I'm still hoping one of these days I might be able to see that. A lot of the live TV shows that Johnny did, I think, are probably lost. But the Milton Berle Show might still exist. That was a famous enough show that surely somebody recorded it. I know it exists. I just found out that NBC has a copy of it. But anyway, I wish some of those performances were available. The TV shows that Max Morath did were later on in the 1960s. He was on shows like the Bell Telephone Hour and the Arthur Godfrey Show. I think maybe that's one reason he might be better remembered, is those TV shows still survive. But anyhow, they were done later on in the 60s. Here's the Crazy Otto medley from 1955. That's the Crazy Otto medley. So and then, of course, after Johnny had the big hit on that tune, then Fritz Schultz Reichel came to the United States and made records under the name Crazy Otto, as if that was his real name. He was on Decca Records. Ironically, I think one of the hits that he had on Decca was Glad Rag Doll, which Johnny also performed. Johnny never used Crazy Otto as his name. It was just the name of that record. It was not his nickname. He didn't care for it too much, but he also didn't care for the out-of-tune pianos. He didn't have anything to do with that. That's just what the record companies did. I think it was ironic that he was almost kind of unaware that he was part of the honky-tonk piano movement. His interests were all focused on the authentic ragtime and early blues particularly. And, well, I've got time for a couple more tunes here, folks. What do you want to hear? Maybe at least one or two more requests before I do the last couple of things that I planned. Well, glad everybody seems to be enjoying it. I'm reading comments here on Facebook as well. I might wait just a minute to see if some requests come in. As I've mentioned before, there's a delay before I can actually read it in the chat sometimes. No, doing the ham bone? Who wrote that rag, Leo? I'm afraid I definitely don't know that. Oh, how about It Had to Be You? Yeah, Jonah wants to hear It Had to Be You. This is fun. I was kind of inspired to spruce up my version of this by Rod Miller. It's my friend that played at Disneyland for 36 years. And he definitely played in that so-called honky-tonk piano style and grew up with some of these recordings that I've been talking about, Knuckles O'Toole. In fact, Rod was good friends with Lou Bush, who was Joe Finger's car. And I love the way he played this. It's a very upbeat version of what is sort of a sentimental song. It Had to Be You, written by Isham Jones, originally 1924. like that, it had to be you. Thank you, folks. Art Tatum in there? Oh, not too much, I'm afraid. I wish I could play like Art Tatum, but no. The riffs that I use are a little bit more simple. They're from a different period of history in jazz music. Well, let's go ahead and do this medley of songs that I mentioned earlier. I think I might have played this one night when I did a whole tribute concert for Johnny Maddox on a live stream. But it just occurred to me one day when he was sitting by the piano and I was playing at the Diamond Bell, it would be a lot of fun to play all of his hits for him, the songs that he had hit records on. And I sat down on the phone with him one day and tried to get him to remember which of the records he made were the biggest hits. He supposedly earned 9 gold records, and I don't know exactly which of the records they were, but I can make a pretty good guess. And I think it makes a fun medley of songs. They're not really ragtime per se, as much as old pop tunes from the 20s and 30s, which he recorded in a sort of ragtime piano style. And the records are fun. They're fun to listen to. They're very upbeat. And that's probably why in the mid-50s he was named the #1 jukebox artist in America. And oh well, Andrew Green's listening tonight. He wants me to mention the Central Pennsylvania Ragtime Festival, which is coming up at Orbisonia, Pennsylvania, which is the home of the East Broad Top Railroad. I'll get to play there in person in about 2 weeks. If you're on the East Coast, it's really the only ragtime festival anywhere on the East Coast, so it's worth the trip. It's a charming town and top-notch musicians. Back to I might need to call you after the show, Andrew. Let's talk. I'm having transportation issues. Now back to this medley of songs. I'm going to start out with Bob Wills' San Antonio Rose, which is probably Johnny's first million-selling record. And then we're going to do Stardust. My favorite record ever made of Stardust is Johnny Maddox with Chet Atkins on the guitar. It's a very early record for Chet Atkins. I'm not terribly interested in the rest of his career, but he sounded really good on this record with Johnny. Little Grass Shack. My Little Grass Shack in Kealakekua, Hawaii was a popular tune of the 30s. Johnny had a very big hit record on that song. And then we're going to do Sioux City Sue. And In the Mood was one of his biggest hits. And follow that up with the Dipsy Doodle. Had to dig out the sheet music for this one. This is a tune, came out in 1937 originally. And it was a big hit for a popular band leader of that period called Larry Clinton. And after the Dipsy Doodle, we're going to do Josephine, which was a song written by Wayne King. And then I'm going to wind up the medley with, just for grins, a little bit of Yellow Dog Blues by W.C. Handy. And that was, I don't know if that record sold a million or not. I really have no idea. The only one of the gold records that Johnny kept was the Crazy Otto, funnily enough. But Johnny did have a record of Yellow Dog Blues that hit the Billboard charts about 1957 or 58. And that was probably one of his last records to hit the Billboard charts. Anyhow, let's do this now. The Johnny Maddox hit tune medley. Thank you so much, everybody. That last one is the Yellow Dog Blues. Johnny had a big record on that with a clarinet player who used a special technique called tonguing the clarinet. It's kind of unusual. No, I'm afraid I've never played Goodnight Irene. Luke, I'm sorry, I don't know so many of those songs. A lot of the ones you asked me for are kind of country, and I don't do too much of that, generally speaking. Piano's kind of the wrong instrument for it. What else would we like to hear, folks? Might be able to get in one more request here. Actually, it's almost 7:30 here in Durango, and I thought what I would do to close out the show, actually, is in honor of the fact that it's September 11th, I could do my Georgian Cohan medley, which is probably the most patriotic songs I know. Of course, he wrote the very best ones. In fact, he was the only songwriter ever given a Congressional Gold Medal. FDR gave it to him in 1940 before he died, and they're not all patriotic necessarily, but I think it's fitting. One is called Give My Regards to Broadway. So all songs about New York. One is sort of an Irish-American tune, Harrigan, and well, let me name them all for you. We'll start with the Yankee Doodle Boy, which is the correct title of Yankee Doodle Dandy. This is what most people call it. And then we'll do, what's the next one? Mary's a Grand Old Name. Then Give My Regards to Broadway and Harrigan. And Over There, including the verse from World War I. And two of the waltzes that he wrote. We'll do Little Nellie Kelly, I Love You, and 45 Minutes from Broadway, and then end up with Your Grand Old Flag. The two songs for which he was given the medal specifically were Over There and Your Grand Old Flag. Certainly deserving, I think, in my opinion. It's funny to me, Dave, I'm not making fun of you, but a lot of people spell it Cohen, C-O-H-E-N. Well, that would be a Jewish fella, and it's Cohan. He was an Irish-American, very proud of it, born on the 3rd of July, not the 4th as he claimed, C-O-H-A-N, Cohan. So let me do these Georgian Cohan songs, and this will probably close out tonight's concert. It'll take me a minute to get through all these songs in honor of September 11th tonight. you so much, everybody. Well, that's my George M. Cohan medley, and I guess I'll wrap up tonight with that one. I got some of the songs out of order, but you all know them anyway. And sorry I didn't get around to Honky-Tonk Train Blues. I did that during my last virtual concert. I like to try and space them out if I can do that. And thank you very much to those of you that still send in the virtual tips. It helps me a lot, allows me to keep trying to make a career out of this and keep the music alive. So I thank you very much, and I'll be back next weekend with another virtual concert on Facebook and YouTube, same time, Sunday night. And I'm pretty sure that I want to do a novelty piano night, dive into the novelty piano solos of the 1920s and 30s. That's one of my favorite sort of subgenres within ragtime music. So that is coming up next week, and I hope to see you all then. Thanks so much. Good night for now.